Good morning, everybody. I'm here with the amazing psychic Liz Cross. How are you doing today?
Oh, well, we're getting used to the school routine,
Mhm.
right? It's been absolute hell trying to get back into it and trying to be organized. But today was a much better day, thank God, right? Because it's chaos in the morning trying to get kids ready for school.
Right. Okay. Well, we are going to do a probe on pesticides. This will probably be pretty extensive. We'll probably cover at least 3 videos, I'm thinking, at this point. We have listener questions as well. So that usually, I mean, you can spend like an hour on listener questions usually. So if you guys out there in YouTube land want to see all probably 3 parts of this video, as well as contribute to asking questions about all these wonderful topics that we probe and see all of the other videos that we do on all the other topics, how do they support us, Liz?
So you go to patreon.com/ remote viewing and beyond. That will be in the comment section below this video, as well as Mr. Photon's tip jar and email address.
Yeah, so I do health consults, crypto consults, and of course, I do appreciate any tips in my jar to help keep the lights on down here for the time being. So, all right, let's get into it. So we have obviously a very big problem with pesticides all over the world now. And there's 2 main things. There's glyphosate, and then there's all the other pesticides that they use. Glyphosate is associated with genetically modified foods. So the problem with glyphosate is, yes, they spray it, but it's also coming through the inside of the vegetables that are genetically modified. So you can't wash it off. So we've got a few different vectors of attack here from those different things. All the regular pesticides that they've been using, the new ones, and now the genetically modified organisms that actually produce their own pesticides. So it's actually a nightmare because of this situation. It's in everything. It's in like groundwater. It's in the rain. It's in obviously all the foods that we eat. It's in all the processed foods that we eat. It's in the air, even in some cases. I mean, if you live next to a farm that's spraying this stuff, right? So if you're downwind of that, you're breathing it in. So no matter what you do, whether you're organic or not, eating organic or not, you're still going to get some exposure. So we're going to go through, eventually, we're going to get to the solutions that we can do to help make ourselves more resilient and also lower our exposure. I got some tea particles stuck in my throat there.
No.
Um, okay, so let's go through some of the how it's working. So number one, when they spray glyphosate, which is one of the newer pesticides that they use now, it's actually chelating the plant. What does that mean? It's destroying and almost like detoxing all that the minerals from the plant, and that's actually how it works to destroy the organisms that live on there. They're actually chelating all the organisms, the viruses and the bacteria. And that's not good because when you ingest it, it does the same to you. You also get chelated of all the healthy minerals in your body, and then that obviously breaks down the energy production of your body. So that's one way that it's not good. The other way is that glyphosate actually replaces glycine in the body. You can even hear it in the word glyphosate and glycine. Glycine is an amino acid that's essential, an essential amino acid in our body that makes up all the proteins. So when your body is coming in contact with the glyphosate, it's like, oh, I see glycine, and then it puts it in all the proteins in the body. Now, if you don't know, proteins are involved in every process. They're the building blocks of everything in our body. So when the body comes in contact with something that it can't break down, like this glyphosate, then you start getting autoimmune issues because it's like, oh, there's a foreign invader in all the protein in your body. And that's where you start getting, autoimmune issues. Also, think of like all the neurological diseases, especially Alzheimer's. They've identified that there's uh, proteins that are not being properly folded, and also things that are not being detoxed, like the amyloid plaque betas. That would also be, in my mind, related to this because your body cannot detox that because it thinks that there's glycine when it's really glyphosate in your brain, and it can't break it down and get it out of there. So it's really pervasive. Like you could pretty much connect glyphosate and all the pesticides to pretty much every modern disease almost that you can think of, just because it affects the fundamental levels of why we're humans, the protein synthesis, protein folding, the detox pathways. That's going to affect everything downstream from that. So another big thing is our schemate pathway, which glyphosate disrupts that. So that's all the essential amino acids that make all of our hormones, right? So all of the hormones and neurotransmitters can be affected downstream from that. And then that can affect thyroid hormones, just everything. So it's one of those things that is like, it's like foundational, where it's like, it can manifest in so many different disease states because it's so foundational to our biology, the way that it affects it. Now, another big thing we're going to talk about as well is autism, and we've talked about that on the program before. But there's a specific way that this may be affecting autism specifically, and we're going to give some examples of that, and actually do a probe on someone that has a protocol that seems to be, treating young children and having massive results, and it seems to be, something that's being affected by the pesticide. So we're going to probe that as well. So again, this is part one of this video, and we're going to start getting into some of the solutions here, but we'll continue this most of it in part two. Okay, let's get started with some of these solutions. So obviously, our diet is the main way that it's coming in, right? And we can't all afford to be organic all the time, right? But that probably would be the best way. If you could get most of your food organic, even without it being certified organic, going to farmers markets and stuff like that, where it's not as expensive. So one of the ways that we viewed in the last video, we viewed in our fermentation video, is that maybe some of the fermented foods could help detox some of the pesticides. So I actually found a study that kimchi was shown to break down several big pesticides when it was exposed to it. Now, what we got in the last probe is you got to eat a lot of kimchi. Usually when you order kimchi, it's like a little tiny condiment that sits on the side. So we're going to bring in Mei Wen Ho, which is our resident health expert on all things health. And maybe we can actually even bring in, you wanted to view pesticides itself. So if you want to bring them in as an entity, we can have both sides here. So maybe we can take a look at what it's actually doing from the entity side and perspective as well. So can we ask our panel, is eating kimchi with like enough volume of it, will it help break down pesticides in our body?
Okay, so is eating kimchi enough volume of it? Will that break down the pesticides within our body? Yes, but you have to consume very little pesticides and a lot of kimchi. Now,
Right.
that's interesting to me because she's saying, Mei Wen Ho, she is saying to me here to let you all know that it takes a lot of energy to break down these pesticides. They're almost unbreakable.
Right. Yeah, no, from all the research I've done, that is definitely the case. It requires so much energy to put them out. And the problem is that the pesticides are destroying your ability to make energy. So it's a vicious circle. The more pesticides you have, the less energy you have to be able to overcome that. So you have to decrease it coming in order to be able to detox them. There's no way around that.
So let's ask that question. Do the pesticides prevent us from converting, useful glucose and useful things into energy? Absolutely, it does.
Oh yeah, it's acting upon so many pathways in the chemistry, way more than sugar. It's way deeper than that for sure. And like you have to have pretty much like a biochemistry degree to understand a lot of it, but it's way deeper than our ability to make energy from sugar for sure. Okay, so I have one idea of, okay, we're going to get into how we can reduce a little bit later, but right now, let's assume that we have reduced our intake of the pesticides. I have a little protocol here. So it would be bentonite clay, sauerkraut juice, and fulvic and humic acid. This is a combination that you would consume on a daily basis. Would that be effective at, and I think we need to drink more than the juice. I think we actually need to eat the sauerkraut. So if we were eating a good amount of sauerkraut, would that be effective in detoxing if we lowered our consumption of the pesticides?
Okay, so
Let's break that down again. You want me to say
yes,
that?
please.
All right. So it's bentonite clay, sauerkraut, and fulvic and humic acid.
Bentonite clay, sauerkraut, and fulvic and you can do it with just the clay.
Just the clay, huh? All right. There's a specific type which is called zeolite. Would that be more or less effective in this?
Spell that for me.
It's actually a Z or a Z, however you say that. Zeolite, zeolite.
ZEO. Okay.
Would that be better than just regular bentonite clay?
So for zeolite, I'm getting a no.
Okay, so it's got to be bentonite clay. And just out of curiosity, is that like an electric process where the clay is like electrically binding to the pesticides and grabbing onto it? And
Is
then
it the clay is yes, but even that is a very hard process energetically on the body.
right, so we have to increase the energy in the body to be able to do that detox process. And that's, any type of detoxing, like people have all these different protocols, which are great. But if you don't have enough energy for your detox pathways to work, you could just be building up all that stuff and you're just not getting it out. For instance, a lot of these pesticides are fat soluble and they can be stored into the fat cells in your body. And I would think that the body is intelligently putting the toxins in the fat, so they're not running around and affecting vital organs like your brain or your heart. So when you manually go in and start ripping this stuff out, you can create, like hornet's nest if you don't have the energy to be able to dispose of it, right? So I think that's kind of what we're getting at here, is that there's all these things we can do to detox it, but you need to, number one, stop all of it coming in. And number two, you have to make sure you have enough energy to be able to detox it. Would probably be a good idea. So, this stuff, pesticides, my first idea would be, well, what are they doing? They're attacking viruses and bacteria. Well, you have a lot of bacteria in you, but one of the most important ones is the mitochondria. It came from a bacteria and an archaea when it's a symbiotic organism that we actually absorbed way back, I don't know how, I can't remember how long it's been, but it's been hundreds of thousands of years, right? So if we're trying to kill all the bacteria that exists on the plants, well, the best bacteria we have in our body is the mitochondria, which are the energy producing power plants. So as we can ask, the pesticides and glyphosate, is that negatively affecting our mitochondria?
The pesticides and glyphosate, is that negatively affecting the functioning of them? It kills the mitochondria.
Right. So it's like cyanide to the mitochondria. So we're talking about energy production right there. Boom. How can we protect our mitochondria specifically from the pesticides? Is it the only way is to reduce our exposure?
How can we protect the mitochondria from the pesticides is the only way to reduce our exposure? No, I gotta know. There are solutions. So again, gosh, okay. One of the solutions is you stay on a calorie restricted diet. So everything is used up immediately and nothing gets stored around the body. Wow.
Ah,
Okay, I did not know that.
okay.
So
All
that
right.
is a good way to be in permanent detox as well. Now, obviously, when we talk about calorie restriction, I'm not talking about going to a fast food restaurant and just eating one hamburger a day. Oh, I'm restricting my calories, right?
Mhm.
I'm not talking about that. Although it kind of does have the same principle, but at least if you're calorie restricting, you want to make sure that you're getting maximum impact, right? From the
Yeah.
small amount of intake that you're
You have to
having.
eat like super nutritious foods, right? So that's where you want to be all organic, eating the best quality foods that you can, and choosing the type of foods that you eat are just loaded with nutrients, not like empty calories, from like um, like lettuce, just like regular old like lettuce that's basically just water, right? And a little bit of
Right.
fiber, right? You want to pick some really powerful foods in order to, you're not going to get a lot.
Right. And each individual is different. Obviously some people need more calories than others. Me personally, just genetically, we don't burn up a lot of calories. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't matter how active I am. It just, it doesn't do so well. Whereas some people have very fast metabolisms and they can eat a lot of food and weight doesn't even tend to stick to them.
Right.
Um, and they may not even be doing a lot of movement. Some people just have very fast metabolisms. I call them blessed, right? Um, but this calorie restriction, nothing can stay in the body.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So and plus obviously you're eating less stuff that's going to have the pesticides on it. So you're getting less exposure from less stuff coming in also. And then the quality is increased. So then therefore, you're intaking less from the environment. So it all kind of, again, you're protecting your mitochondria by getting less pesticides in also by doing all of that. So before we cut this video, let's look at some of the biggest, foods that are sprayed, right? So we
Mhm.
have the dirty dozen list. So these are the ones you definitely do not want to eat, non-organic. So this is gonna like crush a lot of people's dreams here. And we're going to look at ways to maybe get this off of the plant itself, if you can't afford it, or go to farmers markets and get it. But strawberries, spinach, kale, collards, mustard greens, so all the greens, grapes, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, bell peppers, cherries, blueberries, green beans. These are the biggest ones that they spray where they've tested them and they have the most pesticides on them. So it's recommended, like if you're going to buy these specific things, and you can look this up, it's called the Dirty Dozen, then you're avoiding a huge exposure.
Yeah.
So can we ask Maywin Ho, like if you were to avoid these or at least buy these organic, would that take a huge load off of your intake?
Would that take a huge load off the intake? It would be significant, but it's not enough.
Right. So we're still going to have to figure out ways to get the pesticides off the other fruits and vegetables as well, or eat organic. So we're going to get into that in the second part of this video. So we're going to close this down now, and we're going to invite you to join us on the other side. We're also very, very, very grateful for everybody that does support us. And this is how you're doing that by becoming a member with us. You get to see all of the videos that we release. We release tons and tons of videos over the course of different topics, not just health and wellness, but financial, crypto, spirituality, and more. And we have a bunch of different presenters as well. So if you want to support us and all of the hosts, You can support the channel by becoming a Patreon member with us. We also have an option on YouTube to support the channel where you can donate to the channel on a regular basis. I have a tip jar myself. I give health consults, crypto consults. But if you want to become a Patreon member and really see all of the material that we have out there, how do they do that, Liz?
They go to patreon.com/remote viewing and beyond. And I just wanted to say something very quickly, and I did forward you a copy of the email that we received from one of our listeners out there. I hope you were able to see it, but I want you to just I want to say this publicly. A girl that has followed
Oh,
us for
yes.
a long time. She's so sweet. I love her. She's so nice. And she has a lot of cats who have a lot of dietary issues. So, but they're all very beautiful. And anyway, she said, Mr. Photon did a session on avocado seed powder, and you indicated it was good for those with inflammation. Now, she has had problems with her eyes for years. She's been to the doctor, she's been to specialists, she was doing eye drops and this and that, and it always had problems. In fact, she even stopped driving because her eye problems were so bad. And she listened to the avocado seed powder she decided probe, and she decided to put it into her daily smoothie bowls for 2 weeks. And she wrote to us and said, for the first time in years, I was actually able to get a 20/20 vision score on my eye chart, and my doctor says my inflammation is stable.
Yeah.
Before this, she'd been eating 100% clean, healthy, exercising, trying new medications. Nothing was helping. And she put in the avocado seed powder. Then that was your probe, Mr. Photon. You
Yeah.
came up with that. That was yours and yours alone. Nobody requested it. You just came across it. You put it out there for all of us. And here we are seeing the benefits. And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times this young lady has asked me about her eye problems, and nothing seemed to work. And the avocado seed powder was the solution for that. So thank you. So you do definitely help a lot of people. We hope to see you on the other side, folks, on the Patreon again /Patreon/remote viewing and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you.